When you hear the word magic, two other concepts spring to mind: reality manipulation and deception. Whether it's a street magician, motion picture, hex crafter, or an advertisement, something is causing reality to shift. But you always know that it isn't really reality that's shifting, but rather your perception of it. We aren't talking here about materialistic deception like optical illusions or phantom limbs, but rather spiritual ones. In Islam, the sorcerer or witch can bend reality. However, the only realities they can bend are the ones of those they have attached themselves to. To target a victim, sorcerers must have the victim's attention, just as an illusionist will trick you into looking somewhere when the actual trick is happening somewhere else. After grabbing the victim's attention, a sorcerer attaches themselves by using a jinn as a proxy, allowing for a two-way spiritual connection between the sorcerer and the victim, with the jinn being the middleman. The sorcerer can then feed their victim images, sounds, sensations, and suggestions. The accuracy of the messages sent or tapped into depends on the level of the sorcerer, since jinn are conscious free creatures that can choose to manipulate the data to fit their own agenda. Victims can have their moods, behavior, and beliefs manipulated by the influencing sorcerer. However, just like your body, the spirit has its defense systems. So the level of influence will depend on how advanced the sorcerer is and how weak the victim is. If the sorcerer sees that they've wasted a lot of resources trying to break into your system or tap into it, and it's not working, they might rage quit. If he can't hear your thoughts because they're not shallow, he might start making noises in a "if I can't hear you, then I won't let you hear yourself" kind of childish fit. You might get auditory, visual, or any other kind of hallucination. You might get intrusive thoughts or repetitive ones. Spiritual diseases will always manifest themselves as psychiatric conditions and different modes of being. I've mentioned before that there's a hierarchy in the world. Animal spirits are generally lower than human spirits or jinn spirits. Angel spirits are generally lower than animal spirits. The higher up you are, the bigger part of shaping reality you can take. Sorcerers, however, have low ambitions and virtues. So they believe that the only reality they need to shape is the material one. How to make more money, how to live more comfortably, how to indulge in spiritual diseases rather than healing them. And so these sorcerers resort to low, immoral tactics to get what they want. They start out with basic tactics for manipulating their partners, peers, and society, then move up to more intrusive ones. They allow themselves to sink so low as to be able to reach and communicate with the jinn kind without being enlightened. They too are under the influence of the jinn, however they believe that they are in complete control. Of course, there are levels with sorcerers, so the more powerful you are, the better you can bend the will of the jinn, and the more accurate the messages you're tapping into and broadcasting are. We've mentioned jinn a lot, so let's explain what those are. Jinn kind and mankind are the only spirits that have accepted God's trust and took on free will. Jinn, however, are of a much lower status than man. We'll explain the hierarchy in a future video. While they do possess free will, because of their lower nature, they weren't given thought as advanced as that of man. Otherwise, they would have destroyed everything. Ironically, man is prophesied to destroy life as they know it during the hour, which is in our lifetime. More on that on a future video too. The more important difference between man and jinn is that jinn spirits surround their material bodies, and therefore the only interaction possible with them are on the spiritual level. Us, on the other hand, have our bodies surrounding our spirits. This schema was made so that man inherits the material world and guides both man and jinn to the truth. To become a sorcerer, one must degrade their nature, so as to veer as far away from the way of perfection as possible, which is why you hear of sorcery initiates often hiding in caves surrounding themselves with urine and feces. After they veer far enough, they use spiritual traveling to step into the darkness and welcome the jinn into their hearts. Daniel's grotto in Morocco was famous for being a go-to destination for sorcery students. They lock themselves up in there and go through a degrading kind of pilgrimage. Muslims recognize that governments have been trying to weaponize this sort of behavior and have been investing in psychic warfare research. However, Muslims also reckon that sorcerers are harmless against enlightened individuals, even those who are at the infancy of their spiritual path.